This is topic 1.2, types of democracy. Representative democracies can take on several forms, but there are three models that you need to know. The first one is participatory, broad participation in political slash civil society. This means exactly what it sounds like, to have as many people as possible involved in the democratic political process, taking part in voting, attending town hall meetings, attending rallies, protests, being a part of civic groups. Participatory model of democracy supports majority rule, and this is the model that is most closely aligned with local politics and what we see in our local communities. And this one is where we see citizens voting on laws directly, like in a referendum. The second type of democracy, the model, is elite, limited participation by a few well educated and wealthy. Those are key words to associate with this model of democracy. Decision making is often insulated from public pressure, and ordinary citizens typically don't have much more influence beyond voting. All right, and these well educated, wealthy few, the small group of people, they tend to have the necessary skills and education to represent the governed, to prevent popular and also unwise positions. We see this a lot in campaign finance, donor influence, and other election things that go on in Unit 5. And the last model of democracy is pluralist, group based activism. This one includes a lot of people, but think of a lot of people in groups. So also associate pluralists with interest groups. All right, that's when a lot of citizens come together with like minded interests and passions, and they work together to impact the political decision making process. A lot of interest groups, they raise money and they persuade legislators to pass laws that are favorable to their cause. You probably have heard of some of these interest groups like the NRA, the ACLU, the NAACP, AARP. Those are all interest groups that are very much active, and you can join an interest group as you get older if you are really passionate about changing life for a certain group of people or a cause that's really important to you. You can get engaged, and it takes on many different forms. So, pluralist, group based activism by interest groups. So, types of democracy in foundational documents. So, Federalist 10, James Madison wrote about how he was worried about factions. So, factions and interest groups, you may hear them being used interchangeably. Factions are just a modern day example of an interest group. Also, wherever I write IG in this presentation, it stands for interest group. And he wrote about how the best way to combat factions in this growing country that they were creating was to create this large diverse republic. That's the solution to controlling factions, and competing interests would prevent tyranny. So having a lot of these different opinions, a lot of these different interest groups, was actually a really good thing, because that meant that there wouldn't be one group in power, there would be a lot of different groups competing to have a voice. Where on the other hand, an anti-federalist paper, Brutus number 1, he feared a large diverse republic would create a distant ruling elite, meaning that representatives would be far away from the people that they represent. So there needs to be close accountability between lawmakers and their constituents, people that they represent. And the national government would overpower the states, meaning that he wanted the states to have more of the power, just like it was under the Articles of Confederation. So Brutus number 1, he wrote in favor of the participatory model of democracy. James Madison wrote in favor of the pluralist model of democracy. So where does the Constitution reflect each of these models? Where can we see examples of these? So participatory, we see that the House of Representatives, they're directly elected. Us citizens, we vote for them to represent us by each district. Representatives, that's a typo, they have 2-year terms to hold them accountable and responsive to their constituents. And we also see it in the First Amendment, our individual protections and liberties for speech, assembly, petition. There's other ones as well. In pluralist, we see that a large republic encourages many factions, a lot of different interest groups with different opinions and perspectives, like James Madison wrote about. We have separation of powers, and federalism creates different access points and avenues for interest groups for them to join the political conversation and to influence policy making. And then policy is shaped through lobbying. Lobbying is a really broad word that we'll hear about consistently throughout the course. It's really talked about in depth a lot in Unit 5 and Unit 2 a little bit too. The elite model, we see that with life tenure for judges and justices on the Supreme Court. The Electoral College decides the presidential elections, right? The electors. So when you vote on election day, you're actually voting for the electors to vote. And senators were originally chosen by state legislatures, but the 17th Amendment changed that in the mid 1910s. So, present day examples of these models of democracy today in our country. So, participatory, we see a lot of grassroots organizing and social media, a lot of the community and people getting involved, getting their hands dirty from the ground up. We saw a huge voter surge in the 2020 presidential election. People came out in really big numbers, and we see a lot of states putting on their own ballot measures to address issues like marijuana, minimum wage, even abortion now since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. In pluralist, we see healthcare shaped by groups like the American Medical Association, they're an interest group, and iron triangles that is talked a lot about in Unit 2 and 5. It's essentially a triangle, that's the best way to visualize it. It's a symbiotic relationship that benefits Congress, bureaucratic agencies, and interest groups. And the elite, wealthy donors and super PACs dominate campaign spending. Again, we'll talk more about that and what's limited and what's not in Unit 5. And here's an exam tip. You may be given a scenario and asked which model it reflects. Focus on who has influence and how policy changes happen. Take a look at the key takeaways for topic 1.2, and I'll see you next time for topic 1.3.